So I'm going to do something that those of you who follow me and my vlogs know I rarely, if ever, do, and that is to respond to a breaking news story. Normally I let the news organizations do that, and I kind of do context and depth, and I will be doing a little bit of that. But I did want to address this breaking news story, this moving event that is happening as I speak. I am filming this at around 10:30 in the morning, Saturday the 24th here in Kiev. And I went to bed last night, and I must have just missed the beginning of this major event because when I woke up, Prigozhin was already in Rostov. And for those of you who haven't been watching along as this progressed, what happened in essence was that Prigozhin, who's been having this fight with Shoigu and Gerasimov, and I'll get into that in a minute, he had to submit a document showing that he would be subordinate to the Ministry of Defense, and that apparently was rejected, and that led on to this open fight between the Ministry of Defense and Prigozhin, which ultimately apparently led to the possibility of an indictment and criminal charges being brought against Prigozhin, and then subsequently, apparently, according to Prigozhin, Russian Federation forces opened fire on the Wagner group and killed some Wagner mercenaries. That then led Prigozhin to mount up his men in a massive column and go and, you can use different words for it, but in essence, occupy Rostov-on-Don, which is this enormous military town in central Russia. He occupied it. He brought out a bunch of the leading officers, including a deputy minister of defense, and he just gave them a massive dressing down. And, so I said I'd talk a little bit more about this fight that's been going on. And those of you, again, who followed me or have listened to my commentary on various podcasts know I feel that this has been this fight between the boyars because somebody has to be blamed for this war. And in historic Russian fashion, it can't be the Tsar, because the Tsar has to be beyond reproach. There's this thing called "if the Tsar only knew," and it's something that Russians do in their relationship with their government and those who rule over them in Moscow, and that is to say that the ultimate ruler, the center of the government, that around which all gravity circles, cannot be incompetent or evil or everything that Putin is, because the center again must hold. So it must be one of his subordinates. That's the reason we're losing in Ukraine. That's the reason this war is so just ridiculous and ugly and stupid and worthless and all the rest of it. So Putin has done as many Russian czars and leaders have done in the past, and make no bones about it. Putin sees himself as a modern day czar. He pitted these boyars against one another, and I think it has spilled out beyond his control. I had thought earlier this morning that perhaps there would be this open conflict between Shoigu and Gerasimov and Prigozhin on the outskirts of Moscow, sort of thing. This open confrontation that would then draw Putin out as the czar to get his hands dirty, which is something no czar should ever do. It's a humiliating thing. He should be above it all. But now it looks like, just in the last few moments, Putin has released a statement in which he has thrown his lot in with Shoigu and Gerasimov. Now there's maybe some wiggle room. Maybe Prigozhin can show up, and if he seems to be succeeding in driving his column into the Russian capital, that Putin will suddenly say, oh, maybe the Shoigu and Gerasimov have been lying to me, and he will jump ship and he will go over to Prigozhin. Putin doesn't come out of this. There's no way in my mind that Putin comes out of this better off than before. He's either going to share Shoigu and Gerasimov's fate, or he will acquiesce to Prigozhin and again have to muddy his hands, and that will mean most likely he's off to exile like Napoleon at Elba at his palace in Sochi, while the boyars in Moscow and St. Petersburg to get together and debate who is going to be his successor. If he sides with Prigozhin at any point, I think ultimately it still leads to his downfall. If he sides with, as he seems to have done, Shoigu and Gerasimov, then it will come down to whether or not your rank and file soldier in the Russian Federation holds the MOD and Putin, holds loyal to them, or whether or not they go with Prigozhin. This does allow Russia that off-ramp to get out of Ukraine with at least a modicum of saving face. Not that they deserve it, but they can say that, Putin was lied to. It's all Shoigu and Gerasimov and the intelligence leadership. It was all, based on lies, and so punishment must be meted out. And that might be Shoigu and Gerasimov, but if Putin sticks with those two, he might also get it in the neck from that, from this movement internally within Russia. I do not think Prigozhin wants the top seat. I don't think he wants the top job. I don't think he wants to be president or czar. He's a better gray cardinal. He's a guy who's going to be in the background deciding who will Putin's successor be, because ultimately this war will drag down Vladimir Putin. I don't see any way he survives this, and I've been saying that for quite some time. Look, this is a moving story. Things are going to change. I'll be on this evening with Hal Sparks on his weekly radio program, but I'll also be speaking with anybody who also wants to converse about this various podcasts. This is the reason I'm addressing this as it's a moving, evolving story is because there's no doubt that this is going to change the war. I'm hoping that it will be the beginning of the end. Now, I've got here on Kreschatyk my chilled bottle of sparkling wine from a winery in Bakhmut, art winery in Bakhmut, which I think is only fitting. I have not popped the cork, you will notice. This isn't the end. There's a lot of ways in which this war will continue. The establishment, whoever it is who replaces Putin, or if Putin becomes a lame duck, as they say down in Sochi, there may still be elements within the Russian military and power establishment that wants to continue to fight this war for a variety of reasons, which we've talked about since the beginning of this war. The fact that this is Russia's crown jewel in its colonial establishment, and the cornerstone upon which they build their empire. If they lose Ukraine, Russia will have to look in the mirror and try and figure out who it is if it is not empire. So they may still try to prosecute this war. But I don't think so. I think this is the beginning of the end. I do think that internal dysfunction and near collapse in Russia will divert their attention strongly. I mean, would you want to be a Russian soldier right now facing the potential onslaught of a Ukrainian counteroffensive, while all the while back home things are, deteriorating quickly, and you might have to pick a side in a potential civil conflict? I don't know if a civil war. So there's lots of questions. Lots of things are changing. It's all very fluid at the moment. Again, the Ukrainian counteroffensive continues to march eastward towards the sea, taking kilometer by kilometer every day. That will not stop. The air raid sirens, which were sounded this morning several times, they will not stop. Russia obviously sending a message that we may have tensions back home, but don't forget we're still at war with you. We got a couple of missiles lobbed at us. They were shot out of the sky, but debris still fell. So this is still an ongoing war, and until we see the result of whatever is happening internally within Russia, this is still going to be an ongoing war. But I seriously think that this is a turning point, and Russia has realized that it cannot succeed here. And because of that, they're going to have to figure out how their leadership is going to be structured, and who is going to be in the Kremlin, and who's going to be at the top of the Ministry of Defense. And all of that coming with an active war going on. I just don't see how Russia can come back and recapture or hold Ukraine while they're falling apart at home. Anyhow, as I say, this goes back in the fridge, but I do think sooner than later. I'll be drinking a nice chilled glass of Bakhmut sparkling wine on Kreschatyk on Victory Day. This is the beginning of the end, I believe. But let's wait and see. Early days yet. As always, however, and perhaps more now than ever before, Slava Ukraina. Geroyam Slava.